Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. I was going to send out an email concerning things I'm working on to get a node outside of my house, and in the course of going through all that, I ran across a really nifty map tool that I think could be helpful for us in figuring out where to place nodes in the Treasure Lake area. So I'll just get started here. I'll post this on YouTube and send an email out with the PDF file of the slides attached. So what I've been trying to do is figure out a way with the Meshtastic radios that I could operate them in the house and still get them the signals out into the mesh network that may develop. So it'll be some sort of repeater outside of my house. And one of the problems I have with the house is the lower level's a walkout basement. So about half of it's underground, and that would be the side facing the road. So I'd have a tough time getting a signal out from the lower level um, over the road. So I think if I can get a repeater outside somewhere up in a tree maybe, or up high on the house, that could take care of that. So this is similar to what you do with a crossband repeater. I can set up my VHF UHF radio where I put it in crossband mode, and then in the house and in the yard around the area I can operate a handheld, and it communicates with the base VHF UHF radio I have, which is connected to an outdoor antenna and has a 50-watt output. So in crossband mode, I'm effectively operating my handheld on an outside antenna with 50 watts. Now, in the case of the Meshtastic, we're not going to get the power pickup because the repeater power is going to be the same as the radios inside, but we will get the advantage of a better location of the antenna outside. So this is the one I picked. I looked at several of them. Anything cheaper than this, and there were some maybe $20 to $40 cheaper. They came, you had to assemble them and flash the software and all that, and I didn't want to mess with it. And there were more expensive repeaters. I really didn't explore them because they started, say, at $250 and went up, and I wasn't going to spend that on solving this problem at the house. I'd come up with something cheaper. So this one looked pretty good. It comes completely assembled. The software's flashed. It has the batteries that the solar panel charges, and just had a lot of good features. And the other thing that occurred to me, which started me looking at other map applications, is maybe we could use something like this. It's pretty low cost around Treasure Lake to fill in the gaps on our mesh network. So these are just some of the pictures from the Amazon webpage. You can see this is what you get in the box. They have a screw-in handle that you can mount the unit on. This connection here seems a little iffy, but I don't think I'll have to drag out the rocket science books to deal with that. And the two antennas, one is for the Meshtastic frequencies, and then the other one's the 2.4G to work with your Bluetooth. So when I started looking at where possible locations might be for the a repeater or two, I pulled out my trusty topographic map, and a lot of information here, but it has some limitations. There's some things that are hard to do. For example, if you're not familiar with a topographic map, this right here is the peak of a hill, and then these contours are decreasing elevations from that point. And you can see here, for example, here's the peak of the hill, and this is kind of a gradual slope down to the lake. We're here across the lake, there's the peak of the hill, and then this is a very steep slope down to the lake. And what's hard about this is trying to compare, for example, this peak here in relative or an absolute elevation and say this peak here. So I stumbled upon a neat topographic map in the PDF file. If you click on this link, it ought to be able to take you to the website. And rather than using the contours, they use colors, so that in this example, red was at 1932 feet, and then the light blues at 1634, and then you have incremental elevations as you change colors. Excuse me. So the red areas are higher than the yellow, which are higher than green and higher than the blue. And in this particular case, the max elevation difference is 328 feet, which would be this 1932 minus 1634. So this is the map it generates. This is a topographic map, the same data that we saw on the contour map, but this is presented in different colors. And it's kind of busy at first, but after you get a handle on it, it actually is very effective at showing you what's going on in terms of elevation in this area. So we'll kind of cite some landmarks here. Up here at the top is the campground, the KOA area. Back here you can see it's a darker red about right here. The Sportsman's Club clubhouse is right here on the loop of cabins. There's a high area here. You can see where it's red relative to the surrounding areas. The back gate's here. Here's the Treasure Lake Church where our repeater is. Here's the T intersection. And then the front gate's right here. And of course this is Interstate 80. And this would be 255 and then the 219 over here on the west. So you can kind of look at it and see where the high points are and where the low points are. One thing that's kind of interesting, if you take a look at Treasure Lake here, this green, which is probably about 1698 in elevation, and then compare that to Bimini, Lake Bimini on this light blue, which is probably here, say at 1438, you can see there's about a 200-foot difference in the level of Treasure Lake and the level of Bimini. So you know, it just makes it easy to see how the terrain changes. Now, one thing to notice, for example, if for example we were looking to put a repeater, Meshtastic repeater up here, you can see that we've got, this is obviously higher than here, but then here, since it's green, this is lower than here. Now what happens is, if you imagine you put a real strong light bulb right here and turned it on, and what will happen is you'll get shadows of the light on the downside of the hills. And that's the same thing that happens to the radio signal. It would kind of cast a shadow of no signal until this, and then over here at some point, and then this section here, for example, would cast a shadow behind it, a shadow over here. So what this is telling us is that maybe a good way to do it is to put, say, one here, and this is just, you know, we're just talking here. We'd have to run some tests. And then if we could find a spot over here or over here somewhere that still has a line of sight with the this repeater, then you could have a repeater here or here that would illuminate the backside of these shadows with the radio signal and really get good coverage. So with one, maybe two repeaters, it looks like we might be able to get pretty good coverage of Treasure Lake, even on the 1 watt transmissions that Meshtastic uses. Zoom in a little bit, you can see this area, the roads that are there. There's a little loop here, and we're the ham group's familiar with this area. Those of us that were with us when we started looking for a place to put the repeater will remember we put the repeater initially up here at the clubhouse, knowing that it was higher than down here. But what we found out is as you drove away from the clubhouse, you get down here to the marina, and if you took a right and went down along here or into this area, we'd lose the repeater. And then after a lot of tromping around trying to find the high point, we did find this area, and finally realized that we were casting a big shadow with the repeater at the Sportsman's Club that covered a real critical area of what we wanted to cover, which is why we ended up moving it to the Treasure Lake Church. So that was a real learning experience for us. We had used or had this tool. We probably would have seen this before we installed the repeater. And then we go back to a conventional map. We can identify the roads and how to get there. We can come up out of here off of Bay Road, or up here you can come in the top. And when we found this area and started looking at it, I think it was a water tower, but I'm not sure if that's really what it was. But it was a fenced-in area that had a big tank, or maybe 2 tanks. I can't remember, and I don't have pictures. And there was no power. I think you had to come back to this point on Galloway Road to get grid power. So this operation had the water tank operation had a solar powered control panel taking care of whatever's there, and possibly doing communications with whomever was operating the system there. And then this is the current aerial view. There's 2 tanks up there. You can see the fence around it, and access to it by this court. And might be interesting if we do some tests up here and see a repeater would be good at this location. We'll have to figure out who operates this facility, and see if maybe we can work something out where we could hang a repeater up somewhere. So the repeater we'd have would be solar powered as well, so all we need is a spot to hang it. The other thing to take a look at is from that point, if you measure the distance as the crow flies from that spot to the front gate, it's about 3.5 miles. And you can see if we swing an arc, that 3.5 mile arc, all around Treasure Lake, we're going to be able to cover within the reasonable operating range for the Meshtastic frequencies. And so we really aren't going to have to push the limits of that at all. It's just a matter of dealing with the shady spots, I guess would be a way to put it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll get this unit in here in a few days. I'll get it working at home and make sure that all works out. And if it does, then we could set up a test for its effectiveness up at the water tower. I could take it down from my house, and we could haul it up there maybe on a Saturday get-together project, and transmit, put the repeater up there in that water tower area, and we'll kind of wander around and see how the nodes are connectable that way. And then if it does look good, that it would work, we could see about finding out who's operating the installation up there, and see if we could get something installed. And if it doesn't work, for example, the unit may be limited in some feature that I'm not familiar with yet, we could look at the more expensive units. But after running this initial test, we'd know better what we would need in a different unit. So that's about it. Any questions or ideas, let me know. Just we can continue this email chain with people's thoughts and ideas, and we'll just see where we go from here. So that's it. 73.